Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to go through week 10 social media influencers and strategy. And so now we're going to be moving along here a little bit more on influencers and strategy and really thinking about what are some of the things that we have to plan for if we're going to be embarking on any kind of social media campaign. So, the first thing to think about with social media marketing is really word of mouth. Word of mouth is very, very useful because it's how we find out about a product or a particular service. And so consumers are often disinclined to listen to advertisers. This is a struggle for a lot of advertisers. How do we monetize and exploit the kind of content that we're using to break through the noise? So consumers are eager to listen to friends and family for advice on products and services. And this is something that largely had been unavailable to a lot of social media firms because if I pull Aaron aside, or if I pull Sarah or Alexandra or Connor or Pat and say, hey guys, this new, I don't know, St. Patrick's Day milkshake from McDonald's is really good, there's no way for an advertiser necessarily to capture that. We can now capture these moments on social media, right? On Twitter, on Facebook, we can capture people having these kinds of discussions. And so it's really crucial that we start thinking about how we capture word of mouth, how we capture EWAM, which is electronic word of mouth, which I'm about to get to. It should also be pointed out that consumers who are seeking uniqueness are less likely to talk about a product than those who aren't. So sometimes people may brag about certain products and services, but the level of exclusivity, specifically luxury goods, sometimes aren't as heralded, as praised as modern or regular products and services that consumers seek out. Consumers are more inclined to mention fascinating brands online than they are in person. So again, it depends what kind of consumer experience shoppers are looking for here. This gets into EWAM, or electronic word of mouth. Consumers are eager to read online reviews of products and services. This has been illustrated, and popular products and services receive positive EWAM more quickly, but may not over time. So there is an ebb and flow to the way in which consumers evaluate products and services. So what can I do on social media platforms? Facebook and Google Plus don't allow content creators to create fake character accounts. So that's kind of step one here if we're thinking about some sort of social media campaign. Some sites do not want you creating fictional characters or fictional character websites. Twitter is a bit more open to this. But as we're thinking about this, the best thing to do is to think about which social media platform best exhibits text for your characters and storyline. So, social media allows for decentralized real time messaging, and you're able to monitor your progressions of your ecosystem with metrics, likes, posts, and shares. So, if we're thinking about this, then we also have to start thinking about archetypes and different kind of segments we're going to be talking to. Now, we've talked about segmentation throughout this entire course. We are getting further and further along in seeing clusters and segmentations be produced in real time. And you're going to be seeing that a little bit later on in the Google companion to this lecture. But as you can see here, there are 8 social media archetypes. People who might pride themselves on being balanced life gurus, people in the friend zone, those who create comedic content, the charismatic cook, those who create cooking videos, Fitspiration, those who are into fitness, gaming heroes, people who play video games, the adventurer, people who go exploring, who travel, and the beauty expert, those who are in fashion and health for that matter. So as you look at this, you may say to yourself, well, there might be celebrities, there might be influencers who I can rely on here to get my social media campaign to the next level or to reinforce a particular look or feel or sheen. Influencers and consumers. So we rely on something called cascades. Cascades of information may be triggered on an influencer's YouTube page. So when a video is posted about a latest fashion brand, when a new video game comes out, when some sort of product or service comes out, an influencer will talk about this, and this will push numbers forward. This will help push influence along. And so information can be generated here, not just about what the product may look like or how the product may serve consumers, but it can also trigger data points, and it can also help marketers understand who is sharing what at what time, who is looking at what time. So word of mouth is far more powerful. We know this already. And so it's really, really crucial that we look at word of mouth and influencers as we move along here. Hearing the voice of the consumer, so user-generated content and the consumer or commerce experience. So online word of mouth is the most preferred source for 90% of shoppers making a purchase. Write that down, know it forever. It's imperative that as you get into social media marketing that you understand the power of E1. It's more influential when those exposed to it believe they are similar to the person sharing the information. This does become irrelevant on e-commerce platforms like Amazon because Amazon is kind of a warehouse. But if we think about individual brands like, Express or Gap or Cole Haan or anybody else like that, we can quickly see that there are certain people on these sites. And if you do a quick cursory look, even going on Armani Exchange or what have you, you can see that there are different models. There's a different look. There's a different feel. So the influencer who may be pushing your campaign along really has to be matched to whatever is going on here. Negative word of mouth is sometimes weighed more than positive comments. You should also note that people often are aware of negative comments more so than positive comments. This goes the same for a lot of different studies that have been conducted on market research, marketing, and advertising. Negative word of mouth is often more corrosive than positive word of mouth is uplifting, if you will. So, and it's because people are wary of being tricked, hoodwinked, fooled, or disappointed. So 90% of unhappy customers will not do business with a company again, according to the White House Office of Consumer Affairs. So this is important to note, especially when we think of impressions. Impressions being the views or exposure to an advertisement. So how many people are watching an advertisement, acting upon it, and then from there trying to track how satisfied people are from the product or service. So now we get into social media marketing and strategy a bit more here. We're going to be talking a little bit about things that we can do, things that we should be tracking and mapping as we go through our campaigns. So strategic planning involves the process of identifying objectives to accomplish, deciding how to accomplish those objectives. Marketing plan is a written, formalized plan that details the product, pricing, distribution, and promotional strategies that will be used here. You need to consider your competitors and a reason for entering into the marketplace. This last bullet point, I can't emphasize enough. My own research deals with media management, and I think for the longest time, Apple did not enter into the SVOD, streaming video on demand marketplace, really because they didn't have a reason to. And so now they do have a reason to. They're using it as a mechanism to sell their own hardware, iPhones and laptops and desktops and things like that. That's part of their pitch plan. We'll see if it works. But the third bullet here cannot be overstated. It is important to consider your competitors and a reason for entering into the marketplace. Value proposition. So the value proposition looks at what are the points of differentiation between you and your competitors? Why should I care about what you do, about what you bring to the market? What does it do for me? Why should I care? How does it help me? At the forefront of any good social media marketing campaign is the consideration of client needs and concerns. You're defending and defining your voice at the same time. You're defining your voice so that you are unique light bulb in as we have in this picture, but you're also defending yourself against your competitors. Remember, if you are a fashion brand for teenagers, that means you're also not a lot of things. That's important to note here. You're not for men, you're not for adult females, you're not for this, you're not for that, right? You can keep going on in the list. But when we define and cull our own voice, we're also telling people what we aren't. And that tends to be a bigger list, a greater list than what we are. And that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. That's the way in which we want to go about being social media marketers. How are we unique? How are we involved? Looking at also the company history and also thinking about what are our core values? What are we focused on? Are we focused on ensuring people have a good time? Are we focused on social justice issues? All of this together, synthesized very carefully, will allow you to create and cultivate a strong voice. Situation analysis. So you want to look at the marketplace. And you can look at the marketplace in a few different ways. One is looking at it through internal and external environments, and another way is to look at it through a basic SWOT analysis. You can also look at the marketplace through all three as well. So for the internal environment, how does marketing support my company's mission, objectives, and growth strategies? For external environment, what is the nature of the overall domestic and global market for our product? And then for SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What are the strengths of your company? What are its weaknesses? Are there opportunities in the marketplace? And what are the threats? Are there threats from companies within your marketplace? Are there threats from companies outside of your marketplace who may be trying to enter into your marketplace? Selecting targets and positioning. How do consumers and organizations go about buying, using, and disposing our products? That's kind of a really important thing to note because you really want to think about the customer journey. And so the customer journey is, first starts with awareness and then, right getting up to the point of sale. And then we kind of let go of people, right? But in a social media campaign or any kind of social media marketing, we don't let go of people. We hope that people follow. We tweet back, we write back to our consumers to let them know that we're still here for them. And then even disposing of a product, disposing is a really interesting topic these days. Those of you who have not been watching the news, McDonald's and Starbucks, among other coffee companies, are looking at not only, recyclable cups, those have been around for a while, but they're looking at ways in which to cut down on the amount of cups that are thrown out every day. If I go to Starbucks right now and buy a cup of coffee, I only need that for about, a half hour max, and then I'll probably throw the cup of coffee away. I'll be done. And so it's crucial to think about the amount of garbage that we're creating here. And so when we think about disposing of products, that's a really interesting issue. If we think about the real estate market doesn't deal with disposing of homes unless they're knocked down or condemned and then they're knocked down. So the disposing of a product is a really, really fascinating piece here alongside the consumer journey. Which segments should we target? Are demographics relevant? What about psychographics? What about behavioral segmentation? If we were to cut up people, what does this tell us? What do we find out? How will we position our product for our markets? What types of markets are we actually entering? Product strategies. What is your core product? Are you selling, popcorn? Are you selling cars? Are you selling women's lingerie? Now, I mention all three of those things because they're not related. They are very, very different. And there are different levels of intimacy. Everyone sees your car. Very few people will ever see your underwear. People will see you eat popcorn in public, also in private. There are different venues in which we wear and enjoy products, simply put. And so it's important to understand what alternatives there are to particular topics or products, pardon me, and to better understand in what environment do people enjoy wearing certain products. Let's face it, women's lingerie is a fairly intimate product. Being in a car is super public. Everybody sees you drive. Everybody knows what you're driving. Your neighbors know what you're driving. Your neighbors don't know what your underwear looks like. And so when we're thinking about developing these campaigns and how to package particular products, a lot has to go into how will people be enjoying these products, in what venue, and how are they comfortable learning more about these products. Again, women's lingerie, even men's boxers, kind of intimate things. And so there might be certain ways in which to approach these customers and other ways in which we want to be delicate. So we also want to think about packaging and labeling our products. How can attention to service quality enhance our success? And how can we ensure service quality here as well? How does Victoria's Secret, for instance, ensure good service with fairly delicate products and products that are intimate, are sexy, but also warrant a lot of disclosure and kind of intimacy. And so it's important to really think about product strategies here and thinking about the kind of attention that we give. Pricing. How will we price our product to the consumer and through the channel? Do you want your product cheaper online? Do you want your product cheaper in the store? That's a very, very interesting question. It has fluctuated. At first, online was initially cheaper if you go back 20 years or so. And it wound up being more and more cheaper. Now it fluctuates. There are certain products that are cheaper online, and there are certain products that are more expensive online. So this falls along the lines of how much must we sell to break even at this price? What price tactics should we use here? And then we go into promotional strategies. So develop a consistent message about the product and create buzz. This may be done through VIP sessions, events, contests, polls. You should consider a mix of advertising and public relations here. You should also consider how you will incorporate sales here and whether or not you wish to execute direct marketing. Supply chain strategy. So supply chain, for those of you who are not familiar with a supply chain, is the literal process of gathering raw resources into developing the product and shipping it out. So supply chain deals with all of that. So it considers how your consumers will receive your product. There are a lot of service-based products that incorporate weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly shipments to consumers. There are several razor blade companies now that are engaged in this kind of behavior right now. And so it's something to consider. For instance, if you're thinking about Harry's Razors, they have a subscription model as well that's available for people, as well as the Dollar Shave Club. And automation can save costs here as well. So the action plan for all marketing mix elements, you want to think about responsibility and timeline and budget, as well as measurement and control here. So the social media audit. If you're thinking about a social media audit, you guys have an assignment for social media audit. It's important to note the following here. You want to think about likes. You want to think about how often we repost. You want to think about the response to comments. You want to think about, do you have a rating? And you want to think about if you have a brand voice. You also want to think about how many followers, how many views, and if you're linked back to your website homepage. So these are just basic metrics that you want to be mindful of as you're reaching out to people on your team to create this kind of campaign, because you want to have measurements, right? You want to be sure that you're measuring what's going on. And then what is your outcome? This is also part of the assignment. You want to think about increased brand awareness. You want to think about Do you want to improve the product reputation or the brand reputation? Are you simply interested in increasing website traffic? Would you like to amplify your public relations work? Would you like to improve your search engine rankings? Improve perceived customer service quality? What about generating sales leads or reducing customer acquisition and support costs? Would you be inclined to increase sales and sales revenue? You always want to think about what your outcome is. Saying that you want to increase sales doesn't really mean anything, right? We all want to increase sales. We all want to have improved perception of our company. But those two goals are a little difficult to measure. The goals that I've offered here, and by no means is this an exhaustive list, at least get you thinking about, well, what would I want? What would the outcome be? Social media mix. The zones of social media make up the channel and vehicle choices available for social media mix. We also have brand experience here, sensations, feelings, thoughts, and behaviors evoked by brand-related stimuli. It helps you to create an experience strategy. So you want to think about the kind of experiences that these brands can have that can really, really spur interest in them. Social media tactics. So you can create brand awareness, and it might be exposing your audience to a brand. You might build a brand presence in social communities, and you might develop brand profiles. You might also do a pop-up store or something like that as well. If you're looking to generate demand or acquire customers, you want to create desire and deliver on that. So you may want to monitor social channels for prospective leads, seed influencers for persuasion and amplification. Keyword monitoring, so SEO, search engine optimization, that's something that all of you should be aware of. This is one way in which to really spur interest and involvement in your particular brand, and to help people find your brand as well. Additionally, you may be interested in retaining customers and building loyalty. Strategy includes engaging and delighting and inspiring. You might want to cluster fans and loyal customers to create a brand community and to invite user-generated content that might be tied to positive WOM and monitor brand mentions as well. If we're thinking about content strategy, you may want to think about the talent that you're going to be using, the brand assets that may be available to you, the source content, so where is content being disseminated from? Is it on Facebook? Is it on LinkedIn? Is it on Twitter? Is your approach audience-centric or brand-centric? Or is it both here? That's crucial to note here because you want to determine how much of the brand you're trying to manipulate and how much of the audience you're trying to manipulate. So what is your campaign focused on? Producing and scheduling content posting and promotion. So creative briefs are very, very important here. They require characteristics and elements of each content unit. You also have a call to action here. And social media workflow is a sequence of connected steps that enable the organization to act efficiently. And so finally, when we're looking at social media workflow and appraisal, it's important to understand the big vision. Everything that we've covered here in this lecture deals with understanding a big vision, deals with understanding what you're looking to get out of something, and then kind of reverse engineering. And I really encourage all of you to think of it that way. If we go back just a little bit here, you can start here. What is your outcome? I do this with my own research. And in fact, my research got better when I started thinking this way. Think about your dependent variable first. Think about it first. If you think about what you want out of something first, then you can work backwards to get a sense of how you're going to arrive at your final destination. And so, knowing what each person's role and responsibilities are on your team is crucial here. You want to be able to complete projects in a timely fashion. Of course, setting deadlines is crucial. What I usually do to keep myself going is if I know a conference deadline is April 1st, my deadline is March 28th. Why? Because I want the project done or the paper done ahead of time so that I can edit it. If there's anything else I need to do, it'll be fine. And so that's been my strategy moving forward. You want to be able to track your work. I strongly recommend Slack, Monday.com. There are a lot of workplace social media platforms that really do allow for transparency and workflow tracking. And then finally, having that call to action is really, really crucial. When I say call to action, you want to give your audiences who are consuming your campaign something to do. Don't tell me Nike's great. Don't tell me Nike is doing something here. Nike has plenty of advertisements that help it maintain its own brand awareness. Instead, you want to give people a call to action, purchasing a product or following them or going to an event, right? A call to action is something that motivates your audiences. So as we do this more and more, you'll see that audiences are very much open to social media campaigns. The trick is to find that audience in that particular segmentation. In the next video, I'm going to be going through Google Analytics again, but I will be going through segmentation and looking at it a little bit closer regarding geographic location and a few other ways in which we can look at how consumers can be cut up. Until we meet again, thank you guys.